So I just arrived in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and I was on my way to my hotel. Sort of looking around at a lot of the fallen down I saw on both sides of the highway. And then I saw this. It's an old hotel that apparently hasn't had any guests in a while. I was like, damn! And this was just a little taste of the things I'd see in Pine Bluff when I was here. They burned the whole place down. This hotel used to be next to a nightclub that had some up-and-coming acts like Kenny Chesney, Alan Jackson, Toby Keith, Vince Gill. Elvis even stayed in this hotel once. It's not America's Best Inn anymore, is it? This place shut down 3 years ago, and as you can tell, those who are criminally motivated have made themselves right at home here. I think there's plans to tear down a lot of this at some point, but I don't know where the money's going to come from. There's so much of this in town, I don't know what takes priority. It's like this all over Pine Bluff. I had been in the South for more than a week up to this point, but I hadn't seen anything like this. Even Shreveport wasn't this bad. And Shreveport's all kinds of rough. This used to be something. Probably a manufacturing place or an old factory. There used to be a bunch of manufacturing jobs here in Pine Bluff, but everything's been automated or moved overseas. We know the story. A lot of people blame socialism when our big cities look like this, but this looks like capitalism to me. And the shittiest part is, their own governor was to blame for a lot of this.
It's like I'd said, Pine Bluff gets a bad rap, and people don't know how it used to be. It used to be a really nice place. It was a nice place. It just went to heck in a handbasket, and I don't know if there's any saving it.
That's Lori.
But
She lives here in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. About a year ago, I'd reached out to Lori after she sent me an email that did not hold back. She told me about all the things that were going on here. And I was like, I need to see this place. You probably haven't even heard of Pine Bluff before. It's kind of in the middle of Arkansas, surrounded by farmland and trees. There's 40,000 people here these days. Or maybe not. The population's dropping so fast, the signs can't even keep up. On the north end of town, there's a welcome sign that has one population, and then the sign coming into town on the south side has a different population. They're both wrong. Used to be a pretty nice place. There were manufacturing and steel jobs, and people were thriving. I read about how people saying how everyone here was so happy back then. But those days are long, long gone. And what's left is this. This is Pine Bluff's main street and it's downtown. Now before the trip, I asked Lori how empty downtown was. She said, it's bad. I said, how bad? She said, everything's gone. I didn't believe it. I was like, yeah, right. But it's everything, folks. Every damn thing. Looks like they haven't had anyone on this patio for years. If you can even call that a patio. It all looks like the entire town just left all at once. Like the end of the world. They've tried to fix downtown up, but nothing's really worked. And there's not a lot in town outside of this either. There's very few restaurants and bars here. A lot of shops and movie theaters closed down too. Pine Bluff has open wounds in every direction. The old school, the old mall, whatever this was. Driving around, you can't even take it all in. There's rundown on both sides of the street in just about every direction. It's the roads, the broken windows, the graffiti. It's all really bad here. Doesn't look like they'll be playing baseball here anytime soon. Nuh-uh. A lot of people are leaving. The population here has dropped 28% from its peak 50 years ago. And that's the biggest decline in the country in the last decade. Time magazine called this the worst place to live in the country in the 1990s. And I don't know if it's any better now than it was then. I can't imagine it's any better. Pine Bluff has a really bad reputation statewide. There's kind of a debate if this is any worse than North Little Rock or West Memphis or Blytheville. They're all pretty lousy. But I know there's a lot of people who live here who would vote for this place. I read this on the internet. One local said, "You would gain more happiness, smell better, and have less broken windows on your car if you took the money you were going to invest in Pine Bluff and put it in a pile and then lit it on fire. Ouch. Wow. What the hell?" So what happened here? Well, you've heard this story before. Times a change. Pine Bluff was humming along with all the industry in town. Lots of good jobs, lots of good jobs. But then the former governor of Arkansas, Bill Clinton, signed into law NAFTA, which was a trade agreement that would make it easier for companies to relocate out of the country to save money. Well, what do you think they did? They relocated. So a lot of places around the country closed down, just like here in Pine Bluff. Jobs were lost, people got broke, and people left. And it hasn't recovered. Things are actually getting worse here. You can see former signs of life all over town, but one of the biggest eyesores is the local mall. It was called the Pines Mall. It closed for good 3 years ago, but it was on life support for a long time. The homeless people get into this mall all the time. The guy at the hotel told me they somehow got a key to the place, so the cops kick them out every hour some days. Poor cops have to deal with that crap. And it's not just the main mall. A lot of the strip malls in town are shut down too. I saw a liquor store that's all boarded up. Things must be bad when the liquor store closes, I say. Oh, there's lots of liquor stores that are still open here, though. Don't you worry about that. And now we're going to get into the neighborhoods. Pine Bluff is a very poor place, if you can't tell. This place ranks 11th in the country for teenage moms. 40% of the population's obese. And you think meth is bad where you live? 1 in 3 people in Pine Bluff tested positive for meth last year. And that's the highest of all of our meth-head cities. You can blame pharmaceutical companies or even China if you want to for our drug crisis. But it all comes down to self-discipline, if you ask me. I drove around the worst parts of Pine Bluff in the early morning like I always do. I was told the real hood was in an area between Olive and Hazel from 6th to 30th. So that's where I went. And wow, oh wow. It was really quiet the morning I meandered my way through the part of town that's been hit the hardest. I saw houses with bullet holes in them. A lot of them looked abandoned, but it was kind of hard to tell because there's a lot of squatters all over. But it was miles and miles of blight. I saw kids getting onto the school bus right next to houses that had been burned to the ground. I wondered if they were discouraged by all of that, or if they were encouraged to get an education so they can get the hell out of here. I turned a corner and saw an old Montessori school that looked like it had been closed for years now. Just not enough people who can afford the $10,000 to $25,000 a year to send their kids there. I think a lot of people in town earn $20,000 a year total. Who can afford private school here? You'll see a few homeless people in town, but it's not that bad. I'm sure they think it's bad, but I've seen bad, and this is not that. There's no reason to be homeless here. I mean, it's so cheap. Homes are $50,000 on average. I'm sure everybody watching this could buy a home here today if they wanted to, but I don't think you'd want to do that. At least not right now. Their forefathers came here looking for opportunities. And now a lot of these people are looking for opportunities somewhere else.
They look like crack houses. What can I say? I guess they are. I don't know. They've sat vacant. They've had people squatting in them. They're just bad, and neighborhoods are littered with it. It's not just the poor neighborhoods that are like that, because somebody will move into a nicer neighborhood and then they're gone, and that house just sits there and deteriorates, and it brings down the whole neighborhood.
You could do a whole video on the crime here. They call it Pine Bluff or Pine Box. The neighborhood we're in right now is one of the worst in town, but I can say they are not hard to find. Just about everywhere you turn here looks rough. I wouldn't want to be in here after dark. I think people here are prisoners in their own homes at night. I guess you could call this the Gary, Indiana of Arkansas, or Arkansas's Detroit. It's actually worse here than Detroit for crime, if you can believe it. And Arkansas is the fourth most dangerous state. And since this is pretty much the most dangerous place in Arkansas, this is one of the most dangerous places in the country. People get beaten up at the gas station for no reason. Kids get shot here for no reason. And it happens here every single day. The cops are underfunded and outnumbered, just like what we saw in Shreveport and New Orleans. They finally get them to prison, only to let them out early or on cheap bail. So they don't really have to worry about getting in trouble here. Kids just raising themselves. Up in a place like Chicago, they fight for space and resources, and they can't really make a difference. Here, you get a lot of space, and you can make a difference, but they won't. So many people here have just given up.
If you keep showing people videos like this, it's going to make the Arkansas stereotypes worse.
Whatever, Mappy. What do you think the solution is?
They need to stop waiting for the politicians and just do it themselves.
It sounds easy, but most people won't. But we're going to talk to somebody later who's doing just that. This used to be a nice street with cute little houses on it. It wasn't fancy, but people used to take pride in what they had. Look at all the places in town, homes that have sold for under $10,000 recently. That's just crazy. This house sold for $4,000 not too long ago. There's only one house in town that's more than $300,000 for sale. Here's what that looks like, in case you're wondering. But I wouldn't wonder right now. There's actually a bunch of jobs here, so the place isn't completely hopeless. There's chicken plants that pay okay, but the work sucks. There's a few paper mills in town. Pine Bluff has 9 prisons and 90 churches, so church pastor and prison guard are a lot of job titles here. And of course, there's the casino. They just opened up the Saracen Casino over by the old mall. They usually provide a lot of jobs, but they also draw in more poverty and crime. That's the last thing they need here. The casino was very, very, very empty when I went in there. I think the only people who can afford to lose money here are the few tourists that come to town. I have no idea where they stay. I think there's only one place in town. It's where I stayed, and it's in the same sad parking lot that the old mall's in. Maybe the gamblers stay there. I don't know. Of course, the most popular place to work in the Bluff isn't the casino. It's the pot farms, the local dispensaries, or the weed kitchens in town. They don't have a problem getting people to work there. Free medical marijuana card and all. Hee-haw! I've seen a few cities recover well. I was just in Chattanooga, and they're doing a whole remodel growth thing. But not here in Pine Bluff. Not yet. All the drugs, the crime, and the blight, these are the results of greed. And it's like this all over the country. Cities where companies took off for profits and left a lot of Americans behind. And just like so many other has-been places in the country, nobody here in Pine Bluff has a plan. Politicians sure don't. The 25% that are on welfare don't seem to care. And the middle class just shrugs their shoulders and tries to stay out of the way. I heard about one group that says they care. All over town you see these "One Forward Pine Bluff" signs. It's really strange to see signs promoting growth and positivity in neighborhoods that look like they've seen a battle. I saw one of their signs in front of that crackhead hotel I saw earlier. That's lovely. And downtown Pine Bluff, it has so much potential too. I mean, it's all ready to go. At least they keep it clean, like a refurbished car that just needs an engine in it. But there's a pretty nice area. 10 minutes north of town is the city of Whitehall. This is where all the people fled who were tired of what's happening down the road. A lot of these people pay taxes that fund the poor people down the road who vote against them. A home here fetches $250K on average. Pretty good deal if you want to live north of one of the worst places in the country. And there's a college in town too. It's actually the second oldest university in the state of Arkansas. Again, no excuses for living a life on welfare and drugs. There's a ticket to be punched to get out of here. They just have to earn it. While I was out and about in Pine Bluff, I did nothing. That's because there's nothing to do here, like at all. I spent a couple of boring nights out at a Mexican joint. You can always count on a Mexican restaurant, no matter how hood it is. Ah, the smell of a paper mill. They say that nasty smell is the smell of money. Inside the paper mill, things are churning along. Just business as usual. Lots of hard-working people in there. It's kinda all they have left here. Back in town, they gotta figure some things out. It's another slow death of a blue-collar town. Some say Pine Bluff will never be the same. And who's to blame? The leaders who could never fix this, or the people who live here who couldn't fix it themselves? This is an entire population that's struggling, and you've probably never even heard of the place. I wondered, would these people want you to know about them so maybe somebody can help? Or do they just want to sort of anonymously live like this out of view?
Clinton
Yeah.
era, maybe after that, we started kind of on a downhill slide. Commerce left, a lot of jobs left, just like everybody else. They went out of country, lost a lot of jobs. In comes the meth and the drugs and the oxys and the stuff. And, that's killed not just Arkansas, but everywhere. And it kind of started in Arkansas because that's where he was. So, I mean, it looked good on paper and sounded good at the time. But we lost all of our jobs,
We talking about like NAFTA?
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, it was kind of like, I don't know, Arkansas was maybe experimental ground because he was governor there, and kind of trying it on some of the businesses that were here. Westinghouse was one of them that went out of the country very early. They were up in northern Arkansas. Who else? Some of the smaller ones, I don't even remember the names of them. We had some, shoe factories. That seemed to kind of be the start of our slide. And I talked to a couple of coworkers today about what went wrong with Pine Bluff. I grew up here. I've lived in a few other places, but yeah, it has a really bad reputation. The population is probably half of what it was, probably half in the last, I don't know, 40 years or something. It was a nice place to live. People wanted to live here. Used to be a nice place, little tree-lined streets and, nice neighborhoods. There were some more affluent than others, of course, but it was a nice place to grow up. Lots of places I don't go, and I've lived here my entire life. So, not sure what happened except, like I said, no jobs. When jobs have come in, they've had the problem of high absenteeism, can't pass the drug test, theft, on and on. Same problems that I've heard in Missouri. That I heard the gentleman talking about Missouri, no opportunities, very little opportunities. And as our kids graduate high school, or our grandkids now graduate high school, they're gone and they don't come back. My grandson just graduated high school. He's on his way to New York. I hate it. Breaks my heart. It's just, when you live here as long as I have, it's almost too much to bear. Again, around here, it's all low-paying jobs. It's your dollar stores that are on every corner, and the fast food and things like that, because that's about all there is.
Yeah.
So, and we talked about how Main Street used to be a beautiful place, and we have a group, Go Forward Pine Bluff, that's trying to revitalize Main Street and bring in some things and everything. And there's a very small portion that's been redone, but Main Street died when a shopping center went in. The shopping center died when the mall went in. Now the mall is sitting over there empty. So there's nothing left. Some gunfights going on. There's a lot of B&E, just, robberies, They've already had, the casino hadn't even been open a year yet, and there was a shooting there. Just because someone was mad because they were escorted out. You know, go figure. I don't know. There's shootings. The teenagers have raised themselves. Children are raising themselves. Parents are, I don't know where they are. I really don't. They're not where they're supposed to be. And that's all I can say. They're just not where they're supposed to be. I don't know if the statistics are still that Jefferson County is the most illiterate county. It was at one time. It also had the highest teen pregnancy rate at one time. We've had a lot of milestones through the years of things like that. And I hope that it's things that have all turned around, because I like to put blinders on when I start hearing these things. And that's what makes me sad, because I know it's true. And I guess there were those of us that watched it get that way and didn't do anything and didn't do enough. And now that I'm at a retirement age, I don't feel that I have the want to that I once did, or you get to a place where you're just like, I'm over it, move on. I'm over it. Lots of sad people without jobs, and lots of people that don't care whether they have a job or not. Really don't have any plans right now to go anywhere. So.
Okay, so I think Pine Bluff needs somebody to lead the charge. Somebody with guts. It doesn't even have to be a politician. Somebody emailed me and told me I should talk to a woman in Pine Bluff named Angie Walton. Angie's not even from Pine Bluff originally, but she's been a big cheerleader for helping turn this place around. Here's one of her latest videos.
And I challenge you, if you're in a town that people look over and disregard, heck, if you're here in Pine Bluff and you feel like there's nothing to do, join me in being part of the solution and creating a better life for the future kids here in Pine Bluff, so that we can be the change that we want to see.
Angie and I sat down to talk when I was in the Bluff one afternoon. Here's that interview.
People say that there is not a lot of jobs. If you drive around, you'll see a lot of abandoned factories, abandoned homes, and on top of deindustrialization, I think that there's been a lack of investment, because, people were creatures of habit, we're creatures of community. So if I see my friend leave, well, I'm going to leave too, because, it seems like everybody's leaving, so why do I need to stay? But unfortunately, when that happens, it just kind of exacerbates the problems that are already here.
Mm-hmm. So the root of the problem, you said, what's the root of the problem then?
I would say it's deindustrialization and lack of investment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to try to turn things around? What's the city doing? Let's talk about what is possible.
Absolutely. So, I don't have a degree in any of this stuff. I just am someone who loves the community. And in fact, I was on the opposite end before I came here. I came here for school. And I did not want to come here because I heard the same things everyone else hears. I was like, no, I'm not going to Pine Bluff. And I came out here, and the first thing I felt was, this is nothing like what people say it is. Like, just me personally. Like, people were saying, like, the most atrocious things would happen to me just by stepping foot in the town. And I was greeted with nothing but love. And so, after graduating the university and getting to know the community and getting to know that there are so many people here putting in the work, I was like, why aren't people talking about this side? And so I think that my part that I feel like I can do to help with that, reinvestment in the community is changing the morale. So I try to promote positivity because I think that if people feel better about Pine Bluff and if people feel better about themselves and they say good things about their own town, I think we will be more likely to have people who want to take a chance on Pine Bluff as well. Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know, I could be overly optimistic, but I truly believe that a lot of things go back to mindset. If I don't feel good about myself, if I don't feel good about where I live, I don't care about it. I don't care what happens to it. I'm going to throw litter on the ground, and if I see litter on the ground, then I might feel like I can do stuff that I wouldn't want to do in a place like California or Hot Springs, I just feel like people don't value it here. There's not a lot of jobs here. People have left, and instead of the message being let's rebuild the city, is let's get out. So then you have the tax base that is depleting so quickly. So now the schools are underfunded, and it's just a domino effect of things, which to me, it just all goes back to mindset.
What types of things are you're promoting, like positivity? Like, let's talk about what's good about Pine Bluff.
Yeah, to me, so much, honestly. I love this city. I think that from a business standpoint, you have a water port, an airport, a train. I mean, that's crazy, especially for it to be in Arkansas and not like a quote unquote major city. You have so many ways that you can get, shipment and things into the city. So that's amazing. I think that also, if I had the capital, nobody would have to convince me of anything because the prices are so cheap here that if you had it like that, you could really flip the city, and then you would have customers because people are looking for something to do. So I just think that from a visionary standpoint, the opportunities are just endless. I think that with the university, you have a pipeline of young people who are educated. So if there was more of an incentive for people to stay, you would definitely have like an abundance of trained workforce right there. But unfortunately, we're kind of taught on the university, like, get your degree and get out of Pine Bluff. I happen to stay here, but I don't think that that's the mainstream message. That could be turned around. I think that you have a very strong community, and especially as we're talking about a pending recession and things like that, I know that if something were to go down, I know people who are growing their own gardens. I probably could give them something in exchange for some food. I just feel like there's so much love here, and you will never know that if you just look at the news or if you just look at a Google search. But beneath all of that, it's just so much love. I mean, I can't compare it to anything I've ever known. And I've been to New York, LA, traveled abroad to Mexico. I'm from Hot Springs, and I've seen what communities could look like. I've seen where people want to be. But for me, this is it. For now. I'm not married to Pine Bluff. I do see its challenges, but I love it here, genuinely.
Mm-hmm. So does Pine Bluff get a bad rap then?
I think so. I truly do. I truly do.
So why aren't more people excited about Pine Bluff then?
I think it goes back to that morale. I think that, and to me, unfortunately, I think it goes back to my experience with the citizens. Like, I feel the love, but I don't know if they feel it for themselves. And I think it's because of that just decades of negative messaging about the city. Even when I'm on TikTok, which is probably my most prominent platform, promoting the things I genuinely love and see, it'll be citizens who will get on there and say, she's lying, it doesn't look like this, or y'all don't come to this city. And it's just like, oh, I wish that they would see what I see, but also understand, like, I've only been here for 8 years. They probably have been told to have hope for 20 and 30 years,
Well, good. Are you encouraging our other people getting excited too because of your enthusiasm?
Yes, and I have to admit, my enthusiasm comes from the elders here. There is a strong community of people, even though Pine Bluff is predominantly black, it's of all races who they grew up here. And it's usually I feel like people who are in their 50s or 60s or older, you can't talk about Pine Bluff bad to them. Okay, they will fight you. And so that's where I get my inspiration from. But I feel like for the younger generation, there have been a few people who have reached out to me and feel re-energized because of what they see on social media. So,
well, good. Well, a lot of people will see this, and you're going to motivate people to look at their own cities that might have issues and think, maybe I can do something to change my own city.
Absolutely. That's, hey, if you could see my shirt,
Rebuild the block.
Rebuild the Block. This is part of what we promote with my media company, and it's truly what I believe. You know, at one point, everything was just trees and grass. And somebody said, hey, I think I should build this thing here, and they did it. Nothing's stopping us from doing the same thing with our towns.
Are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. And I can also help you find your new house, too. Email me and I'll work with you. I'm not just helping you figure out where to move, but I can help you find your perfect home, too. That's right. I know awesome, reliable agents all over the country, and I'd love to connect you to somebody who can help you search for that perfect home. Hey guys, if you learned something new about America or what it's like to live in America, great. You should think about subscribing and turning on your notifications. You can also click one of these videos or playlists for more.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.